Well, that answers that question. It is, in fact, possible to watch Linkara's History of Power Rangers so many times you get bored of it. And therefore, I am bored. I need to think of something else to watch. Maybe something I watched when I was younger, but didn't really watch much of? Something kind of nostalgic? Hey, Karen, can you run a search for me real quick? Parameters? What do I remember about this show? I remember it was mostly a female cast, magical girl types. They had fairy wings. Kind of the main focus character, at least a lot of the time, was a redhead. Very diverse group. They had kind of an elemental powers thing going on. Big fantasy Destiny vibe. For some reason, I'm getting early 2000s vibes. Maybe it was an early 2000s show. And I think it had something to do with Italy. Oh, you actually found something that fits all of the parameters? Well, go ahead and bring it up. I can't imagine this is anything other than what I was thinking of.
1 hour later.
Huh. That is definitely not what I was thinking of. But it was interesting. Alright, well, like I said, that was pretty interesting. And I do need a subject for today's video, so let's just go ahead and talk about this. My 2 cents on the early 2000s animated series Witch. I actually remember when this show first came out, here in the US anyway. It was advertised a lot on a lot of the channels I watched, or at least a couple of them. Probably Jetix. I watched a lot of Jetix back then. And right away, it reminded me of another show I also kind of watched at the time, but didn't really watch all that often. Still really wish I could think of what that show was. And because it was being pushed so hard by the network, I decided to give it a shot. And I remember liking it, but kind of falling out from it pretty early on in its run. And going back to revisit it today for this video, I can understand why. Just for reference, Witch is a French animated show made based on an Italian comic, which, if I'm not mistaken, is pretty different from how the show ended up, to the point that I actually remember there being some people that were kind of peeved about the direction they took the adaptation, but I could be wrong about that. This is my 2 cents video. I barely researched this, as per usual. But even overlooking the fact that this might be kind of a crappy adaptation of a thing that people like, again, I don't really remember. Let me know if you guys do actually know the answer to that, by the way. But even setting the possibility of that aside, I don't love the story of this one. It had a lot of potential. I just feel like they fumbled the world building pretty hard. The premise of this show is that there used to be only one plane of reality until the world of Meridian, the kingdom of Meridian, but I think it's also supposed to be an entire planet also, became overcast with evil, and so had to be sequestered away in its own dimension, separated from the rest of reality by a magical veil. And in order to protect the veil and close any holes which open in it which might let that evil through to Earth, 5 guardians were chosen, and now it's time for the power of those guardians to be passed down to a new generation, and that's our 5 main characters. And they are straight up just the Planeteers from Captain Planet. Their powers are literally earth, fire, wind, water, and they don't explicitly say it, but there's some references in the episode to the final character's power being heart. They flat out say at one point, heart will lead the way, and this character is very clearly being set up as the leader of the group. So already I'm kind of chuckling my way through the whole thing, because I like Captain Planet as much as the next guy, but in the sense that it's a meme. It is not and never was a good show, but it's a fun meme. And so making me think of it makes me think of the memes. I can't help that. And right out the gate, like I said, this show has potential, but it squanders a lot of it very quickly by just throwing information at us so hyper fast that I could barely follow what was going on in this thing. I watched the show just now. I just now watched the 2 debut episodes, the 2-part debut episode. I paid attention to it. I was eating some ramen while I was watching, But that doesn't really take much concentration. I was paying attention to what was being said. And yet, when I realized that I wasn't quite grasping what was being told to me, and that I might need to actually go back and rewatch parts of the episode to understand the lore here, I mean, I didn't do that. I saw no point in doing that, because why would I do that? This show should be able to get me on board with its premise as I'm watching it first time through. I shouldn't have to rewind the episode and rewatch the exposition, sit through the exposition again to understand what's going on here. I wouldn't have even had that luxury back when this first aired, necessarily. From what I could gather, though, the evil, which caused Meridian to have to be sequestered away, is this Prince Phobos guy who is the illegitimate ruler right now. He seized the throne from the legitimate ruler somehow. And yet, the threat that caused Meridian to be sequestered away from everything else has existed long enough that there has been at least 3 generations of these Guardians. Because, like, the original Guardians were from the main cast's grandmother's generation. And yet this guy is still clearly young, and he's talking about a sister who is somewhere on Earth, who is definitely going to turn out to be one of these 5 girls. I'm 100% sure of that. Like, I guess I could be wrong, but it seems like the kind of direction this show would go in, right? But either way, I would imagine that she's at most a few years older or a few years younger than he is. So, how old is this guy? Does time just move differently in Meridian? Like significantly slower? Or is he just really long-lived? It doesn't really make much sense. And also, straight up, there's an active rebellion going on against him in Meridian. So why don't the Guardians with their magic powers go and help that? If the threat is this guy, why not dethrone him? Unless there's some other greater threat that I missed mention of? I don't understand why this show is taking the form that it is. Because straight up, the stuff on well, I just said the name of it. Meridian? Is that what it was called? Dear Lord. The stuff in the fantasy world was easily the most interesting part of these 2 episodes. I'd really like to spend more time there, rather than back on Earth with these girls just dicking around talking about boys. Because that's like half of everything they did. Not to mention that while we do get something of an impression of the various personality traits of these 5 girls, they're very surface level, because there's 5 of them. It's like the problem that the old Fantastic Four movie had. The one with Captain America as the Human Torch, right? Like we don't get to know any of those characters at all. I guess kind of the Thing a little bit. Like Ben Grimm a little bit. Just because he's real angsty, it's easy to get a beat on him, right? But the characters in that are so surface level and poorly developed. It wouldn't have been a good movie if they had been more developed, but they're still poorly developed because there's 4 of them. 5 if you count Doom. There's no time to get to know any of them. And I felt the same way about these characters here. Not to mention there's technically a 6th character that we spend time with, Rebel Leader Prince Zuko, or whatever his name was. He's played by the same guy who plays Prince Zuko, which was amusing. But man, I found him to be very uninteresting the entire time. His main personality trait seems to be fights as a rebel. And he gets mad sometimes. He'll get momentarily angry, and Dante Bosco gets to do that angry Zuko voice thing he does so well. But that hardly happens at all. I really got the impression from this that it was trying super hard to be Sailor Moon. The girls get a transformation sequence, not like an actual cool magical girl transformation sequence, but a transformation sequence nonetheless. And they have kind of stock, basic elemental attacks that they can fire out of their hands and stuff. And then there's the forced love interest, cute boy, mysterious cute boy, who they're definitely trying to pair up with the she's not really the main character, but she's kind of the main character, Will, the redhead, which is such a shame, because I'd much rather focus on whatever's going on between her and, I think her name is Irma. It seems far more interesting. Like Irma's over here winking at her and talking about how nice and smart she is. Like, there's something there, and yet they're trying to force this basic heteronormative love interest on her. It bummed me out. These girls are also in roughly the same age group as at least the core Sailor Scouts. And there is that attempt at a split focus between them being superheroes and being like boy crazy teenagers. Which I don't know how much that is a thing in like the original language version of Sailor Moon, but it's definitely a thing in the dub. Because I watched actually a pretty significant amount of the dub when I was a kid. And it really does feel like they were trying to ape that exact tone for this show. So between all of the exposition, which didn't even feel like it was enough exposition, and the fact that we're trying to get to know 5 main characters here, and also we have to be introduced to their powers a little bit, and also introduced to the threat that they face, and also there has to be the inciting incident that causes them to go and rescue Zuko in the first place. And also, the show tries really super hard to be quippy, and it's really bad at it. Like, I didn't laugh at a single joke in this entire pair of episodes, not once. Between all of that, the first, 2/3 of this double premiere goes by so fast. It's absolutely bonkers. To the point that it feels like entire scenes and entire shots are cut out. Like, it's bad enough when something is happening in front of the characters, and it feels like half of the reaction shots aren't there. Instead, the scenes being punctuated by obnoxious, glowy transition shots. But then the characters keep coming to conflict. They keep arguing over whether or not they want to actually do this Guardian thing, and how much they want to do this Guardian thing, how much they're willing to commit to it. And yet, none of those conversations are ever resolved. We just skip to a later scene where they're all just off doing stuff together again, and they're not discussing it anymore, and instead they're talking about some inane teenager thing instead. Like, there's the blonde girl. She's like the tallest of the group. I cannot remember her name. I'm not going to be able to remember most of these characters' names. I doubt I'd even be able to remember most of these characters' names if I watched the entire show. But she's the blonde girl. She's kind of snooty. She definitely doesn't want to do this. She definitely doesn't want to do this Guardian thing. And she certainly doesn't want to go to another dimension. And she brings it up multiple times when these characters have basically the same unfinished conversation like 3 whole times. And yet, she never has a moment where she recognizes that she's being selfish and has a moment of growth, or at least implied future growth. Instead, they have to guilt her into going to help another person who could be dying. And it doesn't even feel like they're setting up some arc for her where she has to learn to be more selfless. It really just feels like they were using it as gag fodder. It's very disappointing. Like, it's almost as disappointing as the girl who ends up with the fire powers, like having this ambiguous fear of fire that's well enough known that the mentor character, who's the grandmother of one of the 5, points it out in conversation, and yet there's no moment where she has to find the resolve to use her fire. She's just using her fire throughout the entire episode. I don't even know what I can say to that to properly convey how inept that is. And while the show does pick up in the final third, when we start getting to the action-y stuff, they also do something here that absolutely baffles me too. There's this whole thing where, what was his name? What's his actual name? Caleb, I think? The Prince Zuko character. The rebel character. He makes a heroic stand, running off to distract the patrols that are chasing all of them, so that the girls can get away. Even though we've seen multiple times that they're good enough at using their powers already, somehow, because they sucked at using them the first time they did. But they're good enough at using their powers already. They've already been shown to be able to hold these guys off, to create barricades to keep them from following. And, there's only one small way into this area that they're in. They could hold these guys off without him creating a distraction, but he runs off anyway, and he says the dumbest thing that any person's ever said. He says, protecting the veil is more important than one rebel. Why? You are the guy trying to stop the evil thing that the veil is in place and to keep back. If you win, there's no need for a veil or veil guardians anymore. What? And at first I thought they were going to use this as an excuse to leave him behind so he wouldn't be, like, united with the main characters immediately. They'd have to, like, reunite with him later in the story arc or something. But no, they just go get him, and they don't even all go get him. One of them goes back and gets him. It only takes one of them to go back and get him. And then he goes back through to Earth with them. And it's all just so pointless. Him getting run off by the villains was pointless. It was a big waste of time that could have been spent on developing the characters' relationships or personalities more, or making the exposition more clear. It was such a waste of time. And then the final boss, the final thing that's trying to keep them from getting back to Earth, is this giant dirt monster thing. When one of them can control the Earth, and yet she doesn't just, like, compel it to, like, turn to dust or something. They actually legitimately fight this thing, and it's so stupid. Like, I don't hate this show or anything. I could definitely see it getting better as it goes. It does have a lot of potential, like I said. And also, like I said, I do remember liking it when I was a kid, so maybe it does get better. And at the very least, I could see myself watching a little more of it, to, at the very least, riff on it to myself a little bit. Like that, in and of itself, could be really fun. But man, I also kind of get why young AJ didn't stick with this one. Because if it doesn't improve pretty dramatically, like it's probably a pretty bad show overall, right? Because this wasn't very great. Like, I'm at that point where I'm just kind of ranting about the show. I don't know. I guess there's probably a bunch of you guys who have fond memories of this show, and I probably just trashed one of your nostalgic faves. If I did, tell me in the comments why you like the show. Tell me, should I give more of it a chance, I guess? I don't know. I'm not trying to be mean. I just didn't really enjoy the experience of watching this very much. But really, that's been my 2 cents on the topic of the animated show Witch. Let's get a discussion going about that stuff I said in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video and share it with anyone else you think might enjoy my content. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm trying to get myself out there, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could help. See, now I'm thinking about that show I was originally thinking of again. It's so weird. It's so weird that there was another show that was so similar to that one that the search found it. Sorry, I know I'm interrupting my outro here, but I just can't stop thinking about this. Wait, I remember. The show I was thinking of just got a Netflix adaptation. Go ahead and add that into Karen's parameters. And another show came up. Very good. I guess we'll be talking about that one next time then. In the meantime, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.